I'm AJ Vanek, and welcome back for episode 4 of Dungeon Masters Inc. So welcome back for episode 4, and today we're going digital. While today's episode is about going digital, pencil and paper are never going to go away. Neither are dice. They're always going to be around. That's a hit. But mostly what I mean about going digital is technology, and that means computers. Laptops are super useful tools for DMs. They can help your games go very fast, very smooth, and keep them very organized. There's lots of online tools that are out there for DMs to use, but the biggest one today, and the one I'm going to talk about, is D&D Beyond. So to talk about going digital, I brought along one of my most reluctant players, the lovely Miss Tiffany.
I'm Tiffany, and my character is Braylon the Swift. I started playing about 32 years ago, and then there was a short break, and then I picked it back up, and I have been playing continuously probably for about the past 20 years.
So tell me, Tiffany, why were you reluctant to go digital?
Well, I am a bit of a creature of habit, a little bit old school, and I have a hard time with learning new things and retaining a new way of doing things. So when we decided to possibly go digital, it scared me a little bit because I'm used to the way I was doing things.
That's completely understandable. I mean, a lot of the players that, were at the table, the biggest one that I got was, I like the feel of dice in my hands. I want to roll and feel like control of dice. And going to a digital dice roller, kind of takes that away from you a little bit.
Yes, and I was also a bit afraid of not using my mental capacity of doing the math in my head, because as we know, the D&D Beyond, it does the math for you.
That's one of the big benefits, especially as a DM. D&D Beyond as a tool for a DM, when you're doing encounters with monsters, the little boxes you're able to just click in, and it just does the rolling for you, and it makes it so easy. And I got to tell you, one of the biggest things, and Tiffany can vouch for this, is when I call for initiative. Having the players just hit the button and have it zip right into the encounter initiative order in order is the greatest thing for me since sliced bread.
If they actually hit the initiative button when told to.
And as a DM tip, if they don't hit it, there's an auto roller for the players. You can actually hit that auto roller. So if one of them is not paying attention, you can do it yourself. I think one of the other things about going digital that I really like is the fact that from a DM's perspective, it makes it easy for me to check out the player's character sheets.
Mm-hmm.
I can just go in, I can see what's going on, see how they've stored things, and if they're at an inn and they get a little tipsy, then I can replace a few gold pieces with something else.
I have noticed, actually, that you have immediate access to information that you wouldn't have had if you had to walk around the table and check out the character sheets. I do remember from the past when you would say something along the lines of, "Will you pass down your character sheet? I need to see something." It really cuts down on the amount of time that you don't play by having to do those things.
Right, and that's table time. Anytime I think a DM is walking around the table, having to move something, having to look at something, or having to have something passed to him, that's time you could have been playing. Speed of the game is important, and it's one of the things I hear from my players that they like is that our pace moves, and we get accomplished a lot within the time frame that we're playing.
Also, the little tip on the flow of the table, when you have to stop to look up something in books, it takes an exorbitant amount of time to look things up, whereas on the D&D Beyond, you click whatever it is that you need the information on, and it's immediately right there at your fingertips. It takes no time at all.
And that's very true. D&D Beyond has a nice way of highlighting things like a spell name. If you click on the spell name, you get all the effects of the spell.
Yes.
And on the character sheets for the characters, it's just a little pop-out window that opens up so that you can see whatever it is you need to access, whether it's a spell or a magic item or a skill.
Super convenient.
Yeah, and it really helps. I think even players that are not as you want to say rules heavy or know the rules, being able to being able to click on that and to just read about it really fast helps that player make a better decision or a more informed decision.
I am completely sold on it. It is so convenient. I can click on anything on the page. It is right there at my fingertips. I don't have to look up in the book. I don't know sometimes where in the book I need to look things up. I don't have to worry about that. And I'm able to communicate with my DM, things I need to communicate with him without taking the time out to look something up.
And furthermore, it's not just one book. Any book that you have on D&D Beyond, through their sharing, all of your players in your campaign have access to.
Yes.
So if you're utilizing, if you have a campaign that's pretty robust and you're utilizing a lot of material, your players have access to all that material. And if it's an adventure with customized magic items and things from the adventure, when you sync it in there, those items are now available for your players to put on their character sheets as well. Super convenient. It saves a lot of time of trying to look things up.
Yes. I bugged in the beginning. I did. I'm like, I don't know. I like the way I do things. I'm really glad that AJ had given me the opportunity to make that decision for myself. He said, you can try it. If you don't like it, then we'll just continue with the way we were doing things before with you. But I loaded it, I tried it, and I have not looked back since. I love it.
I have to say, out of the 18 players I'm running in my campaign, all of them have switched to the character sheets for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think I only have 2 players that still like to just physically roll dice. And that's only sometimes. I usually ask them to go ahead and do it for the initiative because it loads in as a DM. It's just a fast way to start a combat.
A side comment, you could actually also download fancy dice onto your D&D Beyond. Make them look interesting. They even have ones that are for casters and ones for, that are for fighters. So it doesn't have to be what's already just preloaded on there. You can make it a little more fun if you want to do that too.
Yeah, you can change the backgrounds, you can change the colors. It even has light and dark mode, so for wherever you are. Really, really cool tool. Can't say enough cool stuff about D&D Beyond. So one of the other aspects about D&D Beyond is it's also, you can put your character sheets on your phone. Super handy tip, by the way, for clerics. Clerics, the phone app actually has a way of tracking party health. And so some of our clerics, some of the players I have that are clerics, have their laptop for their character sheet, but they keep their phone handy in order to just track the party health. Another way you can do it on the laptop is you can create an encounter with all your friendly players, and it'll track their health there as well. One of the things I think D&D Beyond, in a way, kind of missed out on or is working on for their encounters is party tracking of itself. Right now it's very individualistic, and I know some parties, clerics always asking, how many hit points you got?
Right,
how many hit points you got? But using the phone app actually gives you that. It's an easy way to go ahead and track the party health, clerics. So useful tip, and fighters, you can tell them, get the phone app. Now there's one last aspect about going digital I want to touch on. D&D Beyond's Encounter Builder. In episode 3, I talked about game balance. D&D Beyond's Encounter Builder is key for a DM. Pay very close attention to how it actually balances encounters compared to the number of players you have and what level they are. This is key. Every good DM wants to keep your game in the proper balance, and the digital tool here is probably one of the most helpful things that a DM can use. So, D&D Beyond's Encounter Builder, excellent. I can't say enough good things about it. One of the most annoying things a DM has to do is to move his own minis. And that sometimes involves getting up and walking all the way around the entire table just to move a bad guy. That takes time. But with the magic of cameras, this becomes a whole lot easier and a whole lot faster. So for cameras, I'm using a program called ManyCam. One of the really cool things about ManyCam is you can draw on it, You can type text, you can put them in frames, and with the click of a button, you can take pictures. Makes it very easy. ManyCam also sets the perspective for the viewer, for yourself, in the correct perspective. So sometimes when you're using cameras, it's giving you the mirrored reflection of what you're seeing. And as a DM, you don't want that, because you'll tell a player to move something to the left and they move it to the right because you're looking at an inverted image. ManyCam corrects that problem. And it also works through other programs like Teams, Zoom, and all sorts of other types of Skyping programs that you can use out there in order to broadcast whatever you're viewing. So with cameras, we didn't start out using a camera. But what happened is we were a group that didn't play unless all the players were there. And one week, at the very last moment, a player wasn't going to be able to make it. So we got the idea to go ahead and bring in a camera and use like Microsoft Teams. You know, some people use Skype, you can use Zoom. But not really for a live webcast. We just wanted the player to be there in person. And it ended up working out really well.
It did work out really well. She was able to play. We could hear her speaking, and we just moved the mini for her. It was like she was almost like she was there.
And with D&D Beyond, the dice rolling was already taken care of. Her character sheet was there. She was able to put Microsoft Teams and just join the Teams meeting. She had her D&D Beyond. She could toggle between the two. It was like she was right there. And she got this table perspective. And I think that's what got me the most as a DM, is I'm back there sitting looking at the Teams meeting, and I'm getting to see this view out on the table that you only get if you're getting up and walking around the table and trying to look at it.
This is also a benefit to the players as well. As we were discussing about walking around the table and the time it takes to walk around the table, players can also go into the teams also and see the tabletop view of the terrain and can determine what they want to do when their turn comes up.
I think it keeps a lot of the congestion down. So, you know, you have players who think ahead, they want to get up and they want to look at it, but now they can just look at the Microsoft Teams and they can see the camera view and the camera, you know, where people move their minis and what's going on, so that they don't even have to get up until either the very last minute, or when you get pretty coordinated, whoever's sitting close to the minis will move them for you.
It's very convenient. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's also, that's, you know, it provides some nice action shots for the PCs. And I kind of found that if I take a picture about every round, the images kind of look like a little bitty stop motion movie. You know, it might turn into a little Ray Harryhausen. I doubt it, but it is pretty cool when you post them. Yeah, I started noticing, I'm like, wow, these things are just kind of moving along. It's pretty cool. And the players help move the camera around because they have teams, so they can see the camera's position. And as a DM, that just, I've literally stopped walking around the table for almost any reason now.
As a player too.
If I need a different shot, I get a different shot. I just ask them to move it a little bit. But yeah, brilliant. And this is something I think, you know, is to help people that can play remote, but you can still play with real minis in terrain. So the people that can get together can still get together, and your friends who maybe have moved or maybe they're on a trip. You know, we actually have a friend who is going to be moving here soon, but we're going to keep him in the campaign because we're able to bring him right to the table.
And with the D&D Beyond, with all of us being, you know, set into the campaign, we could see their roles and things of that nature right there on the computer screen.
So cameras, big part of going digital. I think it adds a whole different aspect to digital play.
I agree.
Something that probably wouldn't have happened if our friend hadn't been able to make it. But you know, I'm glad she was able to play. But I'm also glad she didn't make it that one time, so that we could discover this new tool.
And she could still be there.
Yeah, right. It was great. So the last camera I want to talk about is really useful for a DM as well. This was another one that just had an idea, and it seemed to work out really good. It's the eye in the sky. So I ended up buying one of those light bulb cameras that I could plug in right above the game table. So what this does as a DM is it gives me a perfect top-down view of the table, almost like looking at a chessboard. I can keep this running on my phone, and just kind of keep it to the side and pan around if I need just a little bit different view, if I want to see something from top down tactically. So between that and the camera that I have that's set on the table, I have plenty of ways to view the battlefield. So that's all the time we have on episode 4, Going Digital. Make sure you hit like.
And subscribe. Also share with your friends.
And also share in the comments other ways that you're going digital. Things that we'd like to hear about, the tools you're using, cameras, online builders, and all sorts of other things. Or go ahead and just share your experience with a D&D Beyond and some of the tools that I've listed. We'll see you next time on Dungeon Masters Inc.